Because I don't think the board has any problem making a decision, but they don't want to make a decision until the county attorney tells them this is what you can do.
I understand.
We've never been in this type of situation before. So.
No, I understand. Who's the attorney?
It's John. I'm writing it down here, but it's John Warden.
Okay. Okay.
I remember what his email is off the top of my head, but I think I have your email and I'd be happy to send it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just did it last
If
week.
his email would be easier.
Is his office just up the street here?
Mhm, on
Maybe
Main
I could
Street.
just stop in and talk to him.
If he's there, I'm sure he'll talk to you.
You might want to actually go up and the third floor. You may actually get there.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
it could possibly be in court too, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much,
Thank you.
folks.
Yeah. Sorry about the confusion.
That's okay.
Please stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Okay, first thing we have is the approval of the agenda. Is there any additional corrections to the agenda?
There's no additions or corrections, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second. Been moved and second to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion carried. Okay, next we have is approval of minutes from last week.
I thought the minutes read well, and I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
Been moved and second to approve the minutes of last week. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion carried. Okay, the first thing we have on our agenda is review and consideration of the approval of professional agreement for professional services with SEH. We all have had a copy of that contract before us, and John has reviewed that and has given us his blessings on that. Is that right, Courtney?
Correct, yep.
So that was what we were waiting on. If there's nothing else, for any other discussion, anybody have any discussion on it? If not, then we need a motion to approve the agreement and authorize the chair to sign that letter of engagement.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement for professional services by Short Elliott and Hendrickson Incorporated.
Okay.
Second.
Then moved and seconded to approve the agreement for professional services SEH. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion carried. Okay, next we have is the Region 12 request. Or just one place, right?
Yeah.
John, do you have any comments?
Are you talking to me? Sorry.
Oh, John.
So,
SEH.
I'm sorry, just unmuting myself. I'm sorry, what was the question?
Any comments?
No further comments, no.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, next we'll have a discussion on Region 12 Business Revolving Loan Funds Trust Fund. Rick, you're joining us by Zoom.
I'm here.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Rick? Or do you want to give us a recap on this thing?
Sure. The oh, I see. There I am. This is my proposal is that each of the 6 counties provide $50,000 for the revolving loan fund match. This is to answer a newly issued federal NOFO. They will be taking these, I believe our first application can be accepted up until sometime in September. I'm hoping to still get an answer then this fall. We'd ask for $1.5 million to give us an additional total $1.8 million to lend in the region. I have been to all 6 counties to discuss with them the possibility of this. Guthrie is in and Crawford is in so far. No one has told me no either. So everybody is, the remaining 4 of you are considering that. Guess that's the status of the RLF side of it.
Rick, what are these funds used for?
They are for businesses who create jobs. And so it's anything from a larger manufacturer. And you can see over time that, well, for Carroll, we've done places like Scranton Manufacturing's expansion here into town. We have done value-added ag projects, helping Iowa corn processors over by Glidden, but we've also done very small Main Street buildings, including the hardware store move in Coon Rapids. We loaned them some money. Did a couple of interesting businesses this last time in Carroll County. An individual who has a business that is doing video mental health with high school students, helped her get her business off the ground, also helped with another company that is doing infusions in Glidden. And so and that's a business. Those are things that are typically done in Omaha or Des Moines. So it brought some of those urban services into a rural area so that people would not have to travel. So it's benefit to the citizens here, as well as also hopefully building wealth in our community rather than sending it out of the community. So there's a variety of different things. We've helped businesses retool. We've helped them buy pieces of equipment that they've needed as part of a larger project. Typically, we partner with a lending institution. We can make loans without a lending institution and had done that in very, very rare occasions in the past. With the CARES Act funds, we did not need to partner with a lending institution. We did some of the time, but many of our referrals came from those banks that were not able to do the projects. We typically are going to be the things that are harder to collateralize, like working capital, and can do that in projects, and will take a junior lien position to the conventional lenders that are going to do the building construction, and generally pieces of equipment that they can get a hold of. So these funds are flashes in the pan, really, when they get available. You know, we got our first EDA RLF in '95. There was not money available again for 13 years until there was a disaster in 2008. We got funds then and cleaned up a little bit of disaster money left over in 2012. That was from the same flood disaster. And then no money available until the pandemic last year. And then EDA freed it up and essentially doubled everybody's money because we had gone after funds in 2008, 2012. We essentially got double. They gave us 1.8 million with no local match. So this is another one of those, I believe, flashes in time when we can secure some funds available for the region. The nice thing about these funds, unlike most of our funds right now, which are loan funds for USDA, these grant monies, and after 7 years after we make our last disbursement, we are able to request defederalization of those funds. And so they will become completely under local control at that time. So it's, in some cases, like planting an oak tree. You know, I probably am not going to see the full benefit of this award should we be awarded, but it should be something that's a legacy for the region for decades, hopefully.
So Rick, this is a loan, not a grant. It's not a forgivable grant, is it?
It is a grant to us. It would be a loan to the business.
So they pay it back and then it becomes a revolving loan then?
That's correct.
Rick, and as I said on that board, I think you've done a job, and I think other board members have done a good job of trying to keep it equally distributed amongst the region. We keep that in mind a lot of the times when we're making these loans. We see a report about that constantly, and that's kudos to you for keeping that in front of us. Because I think it's important to that put the money out, we would like to see something in return in our county, but I think us as a board there, we try to keep that in mind, but we also lean towards the ones that.
And this fund, you're right, Rich, we do try to make sure that we distribute between counties. It's been quite a while since we made a loan in Audubon County, because it, just like when I say here are the jobs that are created, we didn't create a single job doing this. It's the companies that create the jobs, we just give them access to capital to be able to try to reach their full potential. But that's happened. We can't make businesses take these loans either. And Audubon as a county, we have not had a loan in for a period of time. Had a lot of interest in the last 12 months, just never had any applications. And so we try to deploy the money where we can. If you look at the breakdown that I had given you, Carroll, out of the 132 loans, Carroll's had 40 of them since 1995, and that's across all of the funds. That wasn't the case 12, 13 years ago when we came out and talked about other funds. Greene County, I think, was the county that had the most loans dollar-wise and number of loans at that time. That would have been several years ago. So we try to do what we can to make sure that all of the counties have equal access to the money when they need it. That's another reason I'd like to have more funds available. We've hit times in the past where we haven't had any loan funds. And I don't like to do that, because if a company can't get bank financing, but they have a great idea and they'll be able to be a lot more successful or ramp up a lot sooner if they had access to that capital. That's why I want to make sure that these are available. My opinion, we need to have everything available to us that we can in rural areas to make sure that we're able to compete.
These loans that come to us too, Rick, are also been reviewed by a loan panel that works with Tammy, reviews those, they even come to us. Is that correct?
That is correct. But typically we're going to get these, we're going to get a referral from a lender. So you've got the bank that has at least done for their part the due diligence. Tammy, who works for us, used to work with a lender. She's very thorough in making sure and vetting the project to make sure that it would work and digging into the financials. If they have not been through and worked with the SBDC in Kimberly, we typically will send them there, because we do require a business plan and a marketing plan, and we'll dig into that and make sure that they really understand what atmosphere is out there for their company. I don't know every business. I don't know every the slings and arrows of every company, but there are some things that I'm dangerous enough to know to ask questions to see if our business owners are able to answer them. We'll take them through that process. Then once they're ready to go to the loan review committee, and if we think it isn't that it's not a good risk or they won't like it, I may have said this when I came. The only thing we charge is a 1.5% application fee, and we don't cash the check till we take it to the loan review committee. So if we go through that whole process and we don't think that it's likely that they're going to get a loan, we'll tell them and give them the opportunity to back out. If they still wanted to go to the loan review committee, it's only at that point that we would cash the check. Then the loan review committee, which is a banker from each county and the economic developer from each county, will review that loan, meet with the business owner, and their recommendation is what goes to the COG executive board.
Thank you, Rick.
I think you commented last week, the delinquency rate on these loans has been minimal. You've had very little issue with payback on these loans.
That is true, and we have gotten some criticism that we are not risky enough because we haven't lost enough money. But on the IRP side of it, the USDA loans, we do establish a loan loss reserve from the administration that is available to us. And so those funds haven't lost anything. We've had some loans go bad, but we've been able to backfill. Now that we do have a larger one that is underwater at this point that went through bankruptcy that is a combination. So part of it is on the USDA side, and we'll be building that back. Part of it is on the EDA side, the grant part. And that'll be our first biggest loss, but we have done fairly well. And we also are part of the offset program, and there's periodically where we may get some repayment back on that. We have taken some equipment back. So we have had some losses, but if you look at the sheet that I had passed out and you see our original capital base at 5.9 million, the current is just about 6.1. We have on the EDA side, if we don't use administration, we dump it back into the capital base. On the USDA side, we're paying that back, the loan back, and trying to preserve the capital base, which I think I said last week is not going to be possible. So we'll start to see that amount of funds available erode somewhat, only because the USDA IRPs, we aren't able to make enough money on those funds to pay off that loan. And that's strictly a function of interest rates right now, not being high enough to do that.
So you have a deadline to meet here in September, is that what
That's what I would like to do. But you may not know this about me, but if there's going to be somebody that's handing out dollar bills, I try to be in the front of the line. And that's the first review of that is in September, is the first cutoff, where they'll then go and review everyone and decide what they're going to fund. It will be a bit of a challenge. Since they have released this, they have talked about equity being something that they are really going to focus upon. I'm not 100% sure what that definition of equity is, if it's strictly based on race. If it is, we have a little bit where we have done that as far as diversity in our loan fund. If it is women-owned businesses, we're good. We have a very strong history of loaning to women-owned businesses. If it is making sure that it's equity and access to capital for rural areas, we're good there, of course. If they are looking at high poverty areas, we're not as strong. So I think we've got, it's all in the writing, of course, it's all in the narrative. I think we'll be somewhat competitive in that we have been able to get the funds out in the types of projects that we've done, be they industrial projects or Main Street projects, and then also in the breadth of lending we have done, because we are trying our best to get the word out so that anyone that has a business idea that is worthwhile and is going to create jobs and economic activity has access to the money that they need to be successful.
This won't affect, this will affect our FY23 budget, correct?
I do not need the money, and certainly if you wanted to put it aside in 22, if you've got some laying in a drawer that you haven't done anything with, I think that you could program it in 22, but I understand the budgeting process. 23 is fine. I think some counties would even like to go 23, 24. I think that's also fine. We have to commit to the match up front. And in the past, what I've done when the counties have committed in future years, Region 12 has just committed to all of the match, knowing that the counties will kick in later. And I'll have a conversation with the executive board about that at their meeting a week from Thursday.
So Rich, what happens when, Rick, what happens when you get one county that doesn't participate?
I think if that happens, again, we'll have to talk about it at the executive board level. My recommendation would be not to proceed. And the reason for that is that all counties have so far equally participated and are equal partners in this fund. and we never know where these projects are going to be. So I hate to parse it out county by county. The second reason is if a county does not participate, and I don't know that this would happen, but it could, the other 5 counties could decide when their projects come in to fund it all out of the old money, where that 6th county, for in your example, doesn't have any funds available. And then when that 6th county gets a project, well, there's no money available because the only money available is the money that the 5 counties have that they're not a part of. I think administratively that's a mess. And I think it's all in or all out. I haven't talked to the board about that, but that would be my recommendation.
So what kind of rates of interest are you charging for these? I mean, is there a situation where they can get money from the bank, but they can actually go to you and get it a couple of percentage lower or a percentage lower?
I'll tell you how this worked up until the CARES Act, and I'll talk about that because it's really the quick answer. Right now, you can get a 0% loan for 2 years and 2% for 8. So it's a 10-year amortization. Up until CARES Act, we were 75% of prime, which today is 2.44%. And we require that you have a turn down letter. If you don't have conventional financing, that you have a turn down letter from a bank that you're unable to get conventional financing. That is how the program worked. CARES Act came through and said, you don't have to, 75% of prime is no longer your floor. It can be 0% if you want it to be. And you don't have to have a bank turn down letter. And that was so they could get things flowing. That is until June 30th of 2022. So for this new fund, it all depends if we're successful in getting funded and if they when they get the contracts out and we'd be able to loan, those provisions may still be in effect for the first few months of this new fund. Don't know yet whether or not this new fund has its own provisions, whether it may go beyond June 30th or if they've only waived certain things. The only thing I really care about is the 0%. I think that that's been very helpful to a lot of our companies, and it's been able to get the money out on the street. Our lending partners, we want companies to work with our local financial institutions. And we, as I told you, got some referrals here to this fund where our local lenders felt that this project, that the interest rate would be more helpful to the company than not. But we are used to working with our lenders. They've been great partners. Of course, we need them for a lot of other reasons than just this loan fund in our community, and we have no desire really to compete with them. But there are those waivers currently at the federal level to go down to 0%, and that there does not have to be a lender. They've also waived any local equity into a project. So our typical project is going to be 50% bank minimum, 40% us maximum, and 10% equity. Now we'll vary from that if a project gets a bank turn down letter and they've got 15% to put in, we could do an 85% loan. We've also done a lot where we're 10 or 15%, although we did a $250,000 piece of equipment in a $20 million project. I think it was around 20 million in Denison. So we can be a very tiny percentage depending on where the fund may fit and where the business sees value. I know that's a very long answer to your question, but it's not as easy as it used to be because of the CARES Act.
Good.
Any other questions? Okay.
The other part of that was, they wanted some additional money for the housing trust fund as well.
Oh, housing trust fund?
Yeah,
In the Housing Trust Fund, just to refresh, you had originally provided $3,000 to that fund every year. I think that started in 2003, and it's maybe been 4 or 5 years ago, we asked you to go to 5,000. Now with the legislature increasing the amount of funds available to a region, we're going to need to come up with additional match in order to access that. And so we've asked each of the counties to go to $10,000 per year, starting with FY23. So not this current year. And both Crawford and Guthrie have agreed to go to that 10,000. To Rich's point about making it equity, that program we really try to keep equal between the counties. We will go out and beat the bushes if we have to get people to apply for that. So that fund will end up, I think, next year, the total fund will be around $370,000. Our grant is 300, and I think it grows beyond that because the way the legislature has funded it, it's $7 million out of the real estate transfer tax. I don't think we get all of that this current year. But next year we should have a larger amount than that. So we've, just to let you know how we use that, down payment assistance or rehabilitation has been our typical things that we've helped with homeowners. And we've tried to spur some development with developer loans, have not, or grants really to developers, because just so that they'll build houses. We all know you can't really build a house anywhere around here and get your money back out of it if you're looking at workforce or affordable housing. So we haven't done a whole lot with that. The only developer has been us. You know, we did those units in Wall Lake. We've got the units in Glidden we're building. We built those 4 houses in Jefferson, and next year we're going to do 4 units in Panora. So that has been a backfill, but we take that out of the county allocation, and that has been rough, as equal as we could make it probably for the last 10 years between the 6 counties.
So this 10,000 will generate another $300,000 in funding, you're saying?
The 10 from each of the counties, and then we would couple, because that 300,000, we're eventually, if that rises to 350, we're going to have to come up with 87,500 in match. So 10 from each county gives us 60. We've also had several of our cities contribute, like City of Carroll will give us 2,000. So does the City of Denison. Some cities are 100, 300, 500. And then our lending institutions have also, they'll give us $300, $400, $500, a few of our lending institutions. And that's how we piece together that match. Region 12 was thrown in the rest just in order to leverage all of the funds, because I don't like leaving any money on the table. So, but with this, that's harder to do with increased amounts from the state. So this current year that we're in, we got 234,000. Next year, they're looking at 307. So that's a $70,000 increase. So for match, that's an additional, totally not right. An additional 17,500 we have to come up with next year. And then the year after that, it will be more. So that's why I'm seeking an increase from each of the counties. And just so you know, 30% of our funds have to benefit individuals, 30% and below median income, and those are all grants. And those are typically going to be elderly homeowners that are on Social Security only. This report also goes to the Region 12 board. We do have a separate board for the trust fund. That is the executive board member, so Rich, from each county, and then one additional person appointed from each county to sit on that board. For Carroll County, it's Jim Gossett is your second person. It has to be a non-elected official and it has to be a non-governmental employee in order to count.
Any other questions?
I just think this is for me, it's leverage against some significant dollars to help our local businesses. Looks to me like there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 businesses benefited by this to date in 21. So I support it, as well as the $10,000 housing match.
Yeah, I'm supportive. I think, I agree with you. It's a good way to leverage money. As part of our obligation as the board is to support economic development also. And this is another way we handle that. It's harder to start businesses up today than it ever has been. And this is a good way to at least kind of give them a shot in the arm to get going. So I'm supportive of it.
What you need from us today is just a commitment for that, or for both, or for one, or something.
I would take if you are willing, I would take a commitment for both. Our application, of course, then I can proceed with the revolving loan fund, given that if the other 3 counties also come on board and get that submitted, and get the resolution to the Region 12 Executive Board next Thursday for them to support it. For the trust fund, we're going to be putting that application together. It gets submitted in September, so that board comes together in September. We'd like to have the commitment by then so that we'd be able to state that in the application for funding.
Well, my thought is we make these commitments today, whether we approve them or not, and that we do them individually. So if there's no other discussion, let's start with the revolving loan fund, the request for 50,000, and you said that can be any fiscal year we want to right now. Is that right?
Well, hopefully it's not fiscal year 2150, but
Before 2023.
I said,
22, 23, 24, those would all be good.
exactly what he just said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do it.
I just have a note here that when we do our budget in 23, you'll have to decide, do you want to go 50 or do you want to do 25? I guess we'll have to see where your expenses
Probably the
are.
thought, so my first thought was probably a loss.
That's my
That's
thought.
sales tax, that's where we got it from businesses, why not plow it back in?
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I guess I would make a motion that we do the 50,000 for the revolving loan and the 10 for
Well,
the,
let's do them separately.
okay,
So there's a motion on the revolving loan. Is there a second?
And that's for 23, 24.
23, 24. Probably would be good.
Doesn't mean there's 2 of them. We're talking 50,000 each year, correct?
No, I think it's
No,
a 25.
25? Oh, okay. I thought it was 50,000 each year.
No, it's a one-time.
25 each year.
Total 50.
Well, that clarifies that.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Right.
Contrary, motion carried. And that is,
Thank you.
you know, the other counties. Next we have is the Housing Trust Fund for $10,000 for fiscal year 23.
I'll make that motion to approve that.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion carried. Anything else?
That is it. That is it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, next we have is the approval of plat. This is a plat that's been requested or surveyed by Justin Rotman in section 28 of Union Township. I think we're starting a new acreage down there. I see nothing wrong with it. I'll make a motion to approve the plat.
I'll second.
Then seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion carried. Okay, next we have is a letter of support for Coon Rapids. You have a copy of this, what they had sent to you?
Yeah, that's
And while we were talking about that, we send one with, as the total group of supervisors.
So I can tweak this a little bit and
Okay.
get your signature. Doesn't appear that they're asking for any financial contribution, just a letter of support.
That's how I understood it.
Me too.
Any further discussion? Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion that we provide a letter for support for the.
From the entire board.
Yeah, and I'll second that. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
I,
Contrary, motion carried. Okay, next, let's go to discuss the courthouse parking lot.
Yeah, I got a little information. I talked to Zach on Wednesday, Friday. Thursday, I think it was, maybe it was. Yeah, Paul and they have been in and looked at it. They walked it. They are under the impression that for between $15,000 and $20,000 of material, they can fix both sides. They would supply the labor and do it at their convenience. And we would provide money for the material. And I think that's probably more than fair. I told him I'd bring it to the board and discuss it. I was quite a bit less. I thought we were going to be pushing closer to 50 by the time then. I guess if we hired a contractor, we probably would be pretty close to 50. So
so is this just patchwork? No
yes, I
service?
think what
Cement patchwork.
they're gonna do like a diamond cut in those 4 intersections that meet. They'll do a diamond and replace the big chunk, but he wants to leave that extra 5,000 because when you dig into it, sometimes it turns into more. One of those places that Gene and I think Dean walked through there where they put the post in the ground. That concrete didn't look much more than 3 inches thick. So that's probably pretty thin for traffic that it probably has. So what he replaces is gonna be 5 to 6 inches. He said, I won't do anything less, and I think that's the right way to go, so.
Yeah.
Well, I think, looking at it, if that's as thick as it is, it's that using a table, there might be.
That he talked about that too, is that after we seen that thinness, it was like, it might be a little risky, but you'll know more when he digs into more of it, so.
Yeah, and so would a motion be more or less of 15 to 20, or are we gonna put it?
He thinks 15 to 20 is where he should be, and he was leaning more towards the 15. And I said, well, let's do 20, because you run into stuff and you just don't know. So he felt pretty comfortable, and maybe we should just put a gap in it that when you get to 20 material, just stop where we're at, I guess.
Well, yeah, but the only thing is, let's get the job done.
Yeah,
I mean, that's kind of what I think. I mean, I don't think we want to address this again.
I don't think Zach's gonna come back and be like, oh, it's 80 grand, I mean.
No, I mean, I think it's.
I mean, the only thing I can see it, he'll put in there, maybe we talked about sealing up some of these cracks or something, there's a pretty good gap, so moisture don't get down in there.
We don't want people falling.
Yeah, and the big thing is I don't want moisture down and freezing, thawing even that concrete.
We got a good opportunity right now with it being shut down.
Yep.
And we can continue to keep it shut down until we get the work done. I think it's a good time to do it.
Yeah,
He may have to put a fence on that one side though, just for a little bit, because there is some traffic that comes in and out of there now that it's starting to get cleaned up a little bit, but that would be momentarily because concrete, quick.
I did discuss with him, Gene and I talked, that I've been approached by the Iowa Soybean Association about doing maybe a coating on top of that parking lot to maybe extend some longevity. And I think I told Gene, I said, I kind of agreed with the guy that maybe you come in and make a presentation to us first. I did visit with Zach about it. He said he's heard of Soybean Association doing something. He said, I don't know exactly what their process is, but he's seen a different process. He says there's some merit to it. The DOT hasn't jumped on board just yet, but he says they've had it a couple of times at a couple of seminars. So he says, I think they're doing some kicking the tires in that. And I told him, I said, the only thing that would bother me is if it would bother the foot traffic. might make the concrete a little slicker in the winter. You have to watch out for that. But he says maybe we should just do a piece of it if we do, and then we can always figure out how to.
Drag it in on the carpet and the floors too.
Yeah, so there's some thoughts to think about there. And I think that once this guy makes the presentation, maybe we can kind of question him on those parts of it. So, but he's not opposed to it. It's just that, he says, just be careful. He said, I've seen some things. I said, but DOT hasn't made the jump yet, so.
Well, I think we want to support our local soybean growers and, you know, if we can, but we got to hear it.
Yep, gotta see the process.
Yeah.
All right, I guess if is there any other further discussion on this? If not, I would suggest that we make a motion that we authorize secondary roads to do the courthouse parking lot repairs with, we want to put a limit on this or not? I don't think so. Just that, then we'll pay for the materials.
Yeah, I think so. Not to exceed 50,000.
There you go.
Yeah, we're getting up there.
Yeah.
Courtney, do you have any questions about payment of that? Do we have
Do I have $20,000 somewhere to spend?
in capital expense?
I believe we budgeted in the capital fund,
Okay,
I think $30,000. But I don't think we budgeted to spend it. I think we just budgeted to take it out of the general fund and put it in the capital fund. So I'll have to do some checking. Either way, it's going to require an amendment to the budget, which is okay because we've got other things we need to do.
Well,
I just started working on that. So you tell me where you want it out of.
Yep.
And I'll put it in the amendment.
I think this, the way that lot is out there, we have to do this just for our own protection. So somebody don't get hurt.
So if you want it coming out of loss, we can do that. If you want it coming out of capital, we can do that. It's up to you.
We can determine that at a later time. Or do you want it to?
Well, I
right
mean,
now?
I'm working on the amendment now, so it would be nice to know where you guys want to take it out of. I guess when we talk about the amendment.
You know what, I would just say take that loss, that's good enough to right now. With the
Yeah.
Stuff that's coming in.
Lost is looking good. Yeah.
Couple of million.
And we just put some more money in there last week, so.
Good.
Yeah.
I probably, I think that's what we took it out.
Okay, well, if you change your minds, we can talk about that when we talk about the amendment.
With that, I'd make a motion to recommend or allow secondary roads to make the necessary improvements to the courthouse parking lot. Money to come out of the lost fund, not to exceed $40,000.
I'll second that.
Been moved in second, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion carried.
Good deal.
Yes. Okay, next we have is the new RF, Health Services RFP. You have a copy of that here, and
If everyone's read it, it's good. Rick or Chris Whitaker helped us draft this, and Becky's the contact. Becky Benami would be the contact individual. We added the second paragraph in the background part, additionally, every 5 years, the Delaware Department of Public Health asks each county to conduct a community health needs assessment to identify the most important factors affecting health in the community and to plan strategies to build on strengths and work on gaps. So with that paragraph in there, that allows us actually to probably spend less because there are local firms that do this, and it probably won't cost us as much. So before the list we had, we'll contact all of them, but we had 7 that, I mean, I think there was only 1 that was in the state of Iowa. By adding this, we can probably get more local proposals. So any comments? This with the changes, our health board of health physician, Dr. Heim, did comment on that, and Dr. Heim said that she thought it captured everything that we needed to cover.
I thought it read really well.
Yeah.
I thought it read really well. Are you looking for a motion to approve?
Yeah, yep, and so we can get the RFP sent out then.
I'll make the motion to approve the RFP for review health services.
And I'll second that motion.
Been a motion and a second to approve the health services RFP.
Any questions?
So this is also going to just evaluate the system, and it's also going to cover the needs for the
Health needs assessment,
health needs assessment.
county health needs assessment to China.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion carried.
Thank you.
I'm making a little trip at the same time. Next we have is manure management annual updates. We have E&D Fork, section 27 of Rosedale Township. It's an annual report, and it's added acres. So that's the only one we have there. Next we'll do committee reports.
I can go. Last Tuesday, Monday I had paper and radio. Tuesday was our SVP foster grandparents, actually met in person, which worked out very nice. They're having a golf outing Friday the 13th. Anybody's interested in signing up? Rich, you may have already been contacted. That was all last week. We did receive all 5 applications for the director of the ambulance service by the deadline of Friday, July 30th. The ambulance board is meeting, Stephanie and I are meeting Tuesday night with the full board to review the applications at 5:30. That's all I have this week.
I can go quick. I had nothing last week. I did have an opportunity to drive Highway 30 in the eastern part of the state. And the section that's, and I'll say this, that from Tama to Highway 21 is completely done, both sides. It's great. And to the south of that, they've moved the poles, electrical poles, so that it would be then complete from that point up to the Highway 218 interchange west of Cedar Rapids. So from, that would make it 4-lane from Ogden to DeWitt. No, wait a minute, Ogden to Lisbon. And then driving Lisbon to DeWitt is just, that road is horrible.
Is that a what they call the Super 2 going through there? Because they have turning lanes in some, in Lisbon, I think they do, but I don't
Well,
know about the rest.
Well, I think in Lisbon, in Lisbon, it basically goes to, before Lisbon, it basically goes to 1 lane. And then it's 1 lane from there to DeWitt. You know, the big and it's good that I got a chance to drive that, because the big controversy that they had about doing a rural 4 is what they wanted, what has been suggested, and that's go 4 lanes and then go to 1 lane through these small communities of Clarence and Loudon, and there's too many of those communities. The big complaint there was that there's too many of those communities, and I think there's 3 of them, small communities, where it goes right through residential area. So they didn't want to increase the traffic
And then
shove it down through a residential area where there's a lot of kids and stuff like that. So I get that. So rural 4 I would not support rural 4. So I would like to see them go around, bypass those communities. Yeah. But it really needs work. So, and I'm sure they're waiting when they can actually do something. So this week I don't have anything right now. guess we'll see what.
I think the reason they're pushing it rural forward is to try to keep costs down. Right? The big items.
Yeah, they thought it could probably, the commissioners would probably be more palatable for the commissioners to.
There's probably a lot of pushback in those smaller communities about growing business sites. There's a lot of factors, taking
Yeah.
land from people, eminent domain, there's just a lot of.
Yeah, but I just have to think that, I mean, there's not a lot of businesses in those communities.
In the long
you know,
term, we think it'd be beneficial.
to go around.
I'll go next. Last week, you were, Dean, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Last week I had WIWD and they moved that meeting until this Wednesday. So I didn't have anything last week, but I will make a comment and a statement here that I did work the state baseball tournament. I gotta give kudos to the county. The city of Carroll did absolutely a great job. They had, almost 300 volunteers from across the county to come and help with that. Went extremely well organized. The patrons and the visitors from long ways away were quite happy. And I will, like I said, I will give kudos to the whole community towards the team that stayed in Manning. There were three teams, I believe, that took batting practice and stretch time in Coon Rapids. So the whole county participated in this. Also, I hope that we can continue to get the Iowa High School Athletic Association to consider leaving it here. Be a tough sell, but I think it's worth the time. That was my last week. This week, I have the WIWD on Wednesday, and that is by Zoom. And I have nothing else in front of me this week.
I can go next. Last week, I did participate in a webinar from Region 12 in regard to EDA 101 and American Rescue Plan. Sat through that. And then this week, I've got the paper and the radio. This time paper's out in York, but I think that may have gotten changed. And that is what this week. And last week I did spend a lot of time in regard to getting things ironed out in regard to a certain area up on the fourth floor of the courtroom. But we've got that resolved, and there will be a change order coming out on that. So that's all I have. Oh, that's all I have this week.
Real quick. Last week I didn't have any official meetings, but I did take some phone calls on the ambulance director as far as some references. And then Scott and I did receive all the applicants, so I did review some of those over the weekend, and we have that meeting tomorrow night.
Okay.
So your instructions are then to whittle it down to
That is
2
a
or
great
3.
idea. That's a great question. What would you guys recommend? You guys want 2? We have 5 totals.
I'm just trying to think what we did the last time. I think we had 2, didn't we?
I think we did. I think we went to.
But if you've got equal candidates, bring 3. I mean, I think last time we interviewed, we really only had 2.
So would you guys like us to interview these candidates first, bring in the top 2?
I think we
Or do
should.
you think they're gonna be able to narrow it down from resumes?
Find out tomorrow night at 5:30.
I think you could, if you guys want to do your own narrowing down, but I think you guys need to interview the people, and then you bring us 2 back here, and then we will do it in a short interview.
And if you see, how you say, if you see closeness, just brings it.
Okay, one other thing, we're gonna take care of here today, and I think you gentlemen talked to John Ward,
Yes.
and I did get an email here from John, just so I'm gonna read this to the rest of the board. Actually, let's do it this way. Let's add this to the agenda. Is there a motion to add this to the agenda?
I'll make a motion we add this tax issue to.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the reason I'm adding this to the agenda is because of the deadlines that we're talking about here. So I'm gonna read the letter that I got, or email I got from in regard to James T. Long, which is you. Okay,
From our county attorney.
I have reviewed the authorities provided by the attorney. I do believe the board has the authority to suspend current and past taxes, including those subject to a tax sale certificate. You can pass a resolution approving the petition and canceling the tax sales. You guys have any comments other than that?
The only comment I have is that right now we've got 2 tax sale certificates on the property, 180053 and 21-0066.
So if you choose to suspend these taxes for 2018, 2019, these are the 2 years that their certificates on, I would, the resolution that you'll pass would approve the petition, but also cancel the tax sales for 2018, 2019, and suspend any past due current taxes or something like that, without being worded. Because yes, there are 2 certificates, so if we don't deal with both of them at this point,
that would
we're gonna be
bring your-
dealing with the next one.
That would be bringing everything up to date at this point.
Correct. Because right now we're working on fiscal 20 taxes that'll be getting sent out here shortly. I would consider them current taxes because they have been finalized.
Any comments?
There's no comments online.
So what happens when you suspend the taxes? We do this for some other people that are eligible through DHS. When that property gets sold, that's when those taxes have to be brought up to date. Suspending them doesn't mean that they're never going to get paid. It just means that they will be paid.
So they collect. Yeah, so they come out with proceeds of the sale.
Or, I mean, obviously they can be paid if money is available, but they don't, it doesn't cancel them and make them not do.
Yeah, they're still. payable.
And the county attorney had said generally the supervisors never cancel some of these taxes. You know, in certain situations, they do get suspended for need, but that's really the only information I have. And we have suspended, usually there's maybe 4 or 5 people that are eligible, either due to being on Medicare or Medicaid.
So is that what you understand to be the case?
Okay, anybody else have any questions? Is there a motion to pass a resolution approving the petition?
The suspension.
Approving the petition, he's got here, canceling tax sales, I would say.
Well, he's saying we're gonna cancel the tax sale certificates,
Right.
suspending property
And
taxes.
suspended.
So I'm gonna have to get some guidance from him on how to word the resolution.
She'll have to write this resolution.
But since we are in a time crunch,
Yeah, that's the only reason I'm bringing this up, because of the time crunch here, you guys said today. And just will get it taken care of.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
second,
been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Just a resolution.
Yeah, so roll call?
Myers,
Yes.
Ruggles.
Yes.
Houseman,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Shetler.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay.
I'll get that prepared and get your signature on it shortly.
All right, thank you. Do we have to talk to the treasurer upstairs?
I'll talk to her and I have your information. So if she has any questions for you or any direction you need to do, I'll have her available to you, but I don't believe there's anything you need to do at this point.
Okay, thank you very
Handle the
much. I
paperwork.
really appreciate it.
Sure.
Okay. Any other comments, Ben? Or not?
There's no comments online.
Anything?
No, I just wanted to let you guys know we're gonna have 2 special elections on September 14th, I believe. One for IKM Manure School District and one for Coon Rapids Fair.
School.
2 special school elections, yep. And then we'll have our regular city school in November.
Yep.
And next week, let's see. Next week, we'll have some paperwork from Parash. They're the ones that we hired for our HIPAA. We met with them last week and kind of went through just kind of a breakdown, and there's a step now where they're going to proceed. And we're thinking that the board should probably sign off on, okay, this is where we're at, here's an update, this is what we're gonna do. It's more.
For the online classes.
Well, I think it's remember exactly what they called it. I don't know if I wrote it down either, but it's basically kind of an update of the meeting that we had, kind of let you guys know what we talked about, what we found that needs to be addressed, and how we're gonna move forward.
I'd be fine with that to work with.
Great, great.
Okay.
Ben, how many participants do we have?
There's 5 watching currently.
Okay, well, if there's nothing else, we're in order for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion